Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, a Duterte presidential advisor meets with President-elect Bongbong Marcos to discuss the economy and the pandemic. The national government is being urged to allow local governments to decide on the face mask use outdoors. Presidential advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion joins us live. And an auction of important Philippine art and rare collectibles is happening next weekend. Salcedo Auctions Chairman and Chief Specialist Richie Lerma also joins us later in the program. President-elect Bongbong Marcos meets with Duterte advisor Joey Concepcion to discuss pressing issues. These include the economy, health, and the impact of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine crisis on business. During the meeting, Marcos gave the assurance that his government will focus on the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion. Secretary Concepcion, welcome back to the source. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pinky.
Okay, so that meeting happened last Wednesday. It was, as you mentioned, your first personal meeting, first time you met President-elect Bongbong Marcos. What were your thoughts about him and how the discussion went?
Well, it was my first time to meet President-elect Marcos. It was a very nice meeting in the sense that it's the first time we met, and it was something that I would, from my end, would think that he was very accommodating, very insightful in his thoughts. He listened, he took down notes, and I believe that President Marcos will do well, especially if the country supports him. No? Filipinos support him, and we have to, no? As we are entering a new crisis.
Certainly, the MSE Industry was discussed, a sector that comprises, I believe, over 99% of the whole business sector. What were his thoughts regarding this in terms of how to move forward? Should we call it post-pandemic?
Well, during the election period, we invited Mark PBM in the discussions, no, and interviews, and he participated in those interviews. So we talked about MSMEs prior to him being now president-elect. And he has a great passion for really wanting to help our micro and small entrepreneurs. No? He shares the same vision of creating a more inclusive economy that allows small people to prosper in life. And poverty remains the biggest challenge in this country. No? And alleviating the poor to move up the chain is what every president seeks to do. No? And President-elect Marcos definitely will focus on MSMEs, no? Which are the biggest in the business community, 99+%, and they employ 62% of the labor force. So if we want the job generation to continue, especially in the light of this current crisis of Ukraine-Russia, we have to do more, give them more support, no? So that they can grow their business, they can expand, and generate more jobs. So I think President Marcos is aligned with this thought. No?
I want to clarify something you said. Did you say 62%? The MSME employees make up 62% of the labor force, or would this be 62 million of the labor force?
No, they employ 62% of the labor force.
Okay, all right, just to clarify that. But so let's go to this. I guess what's really most important is to find out what kind of assistance must the next administration prioritize when it comes to MSMEs.
Well, funding is very important. The pandemic really created a lot of financial challenges for many of these MSMEs because, unlike large corporations, we have a stronger relationship with the banking community because of our size. But micro and small, of course, don't have that because there's basically small entrepreneurs. So their network of borrowing is basically to the microfinance institutions and rural thrift banks, etc. No? But uh, uh, under the Duterte administration, that reach has been further widened. No, government agencies, the Land Bank, the SB Corp, they have started to lend aggressively to MSMEs, and I think under the incoming administration of Marcos, that will be further enhanced. So money is very important for micro entrepreneurs to be able to sustain, grow their business. And number two, we provide mentorship under the public-private partnership, Econegosyo, DTI, Department of Agriculture, etc., with the different government agencies. We provide now a lot of mentors. We've close to 700 mentors in our list that we deploy, and many of them are actual entrepreneurs. And of course, the other one is access to money. It's access to market, sorry. And that either the online platform or the traditional offline platform.
I want to talk about that one by one. When you talk about money, I did read a news article on this that kailangan ng pera, no? Money is needed, especially for the MSMEs. But how so? Must there be a certain budget allotted for them in the national budget? Is it, as you mentioned a while ago, being able to get loans from banks, etc.? I mean, when you talk about money, exactly what do they need and what should be given to them in the event of any issues or problems that may come up in the future?
Well, access to credit is important. These are not dole-outs. These are to be paid back. So what basically some of the government agencies do, like SB Corp, they lend the MFIs, which relend also the micro entrepreneurs. Or SB Corp in the presentation yesterday was also doing now direct lending to micro entrepreneurs. So money is very important because we know that the working capital of these small entrepreneurs are small. They're not like large corporations. We have working capital lines. In this case, they give, let's say they borrow 50,000 pesos, then that's all they get. They have to pay this over time. So the pandemic really hit them bad. So many of them had to restructure, and then they need more money to refinance their business to reopen.
Right. And then partnership, you talked about partnership. Would this be some sort of mentoring big companies, mentoring smaller companies? Would that entail that?
So Econegosyo basically focuses on 3 M's now: mentorship, money, and market.
Okay.
So all of these components are supported by the private sector. The mentors are provided basically entrepreneurs, from the Philippine Franchise Association, PRA, and many other of the business organizations provide mentors to that whole network, which we have different online programs that are running right now with the Department of Trade and Industry and Department of Agriculture and even DOST and Department of Tourism. So these programs are ongoing, running for the past 6 years. So we're asking for continuity of these programs, which will be there because they don't fund us. We pay for all of this. The private sector takes care of the mentors and all of these expenses and all of that. So they don't need to worry about that. On the money side, we're providing greater access to the different banks. Big banks right now are lending. They have created, BPI has BPI Banco, BDO has their own. So all these banks have set up, a structure for them to be able to help MSMEs, either lending to microfinance institutions, thrift banks, etc. So you have to provide that easy access for these entrepreneurs to be able to borrow money.
For the most part, Secretary Joey, we talked about MSMEs, especially in the past because of the pandemic, that they need access to loans, etc. But now it seems like for some people there needs to be a shift already post-pandemic because with gas prices going up, prices of basic commodities also increasing, inflation at 5.4% last May. Was this discussed on how the country should be able to move forward in terms of cushioning the impact of these rising prices to the public?
Well, I mentioned to the President that the rising prices is a main concern of many of the entrepreneurs today, and especially us manufacturers of basic food products. You've got power rates going up. Many power companies are, saying force majeure, so they have to increase the rates because they're not able to hedge far and beyond. I mean, like in our case, we don't gamble too much, so we don't hedge for 1 year. No? So many of us are caught in this quandary of Ukraine-Russia conflict. They're unable, the wheat, they're one of the largest producers in the world of wheat. So now that the conflict is ongoing there, prices of wheat all over the world has gone up. So it's not only wheat, but the whole list of commodities have really gone up. So there's nothing that has not gone up. No? So, and now the problem is you cannot pass all of these huge increases to the consumers because then they will stop spending. No? And right now you can see there's a lessening of mobility. Fewer cars, I'm told, are on the road with gasoline at 86 pesos per liter on premium. So these are the challenges that we're going to face now. The country has incurred more debt, and the country is expected to grow. Now, for the country to grow, the private sector or the entrepreneurs or businesses have to grow also, so that they're able to pay taxes, so that the taxes is the revenue of the government. Mm-hmm. Now, if the growth slows down, then we will have a problem. No? Now, we want to avoid stagflation, which is one of the worst things to happen. But at the current situation, we have to do all what we can to ensure that domestic production of our agricultural products step up. No? This is the time for our farmers to shine. No? And hopefully rice and corn will do well this year, no? Because the alternative to bread would be rice. No?
Right. Okay. We just need to take a very short break. Our conversation with Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion continues. We'll be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion. So, Secretary, just other things I wanted to discuss with you is really how to move forward into what we are calling the new normal right now. A number of issues. First, should alert levels still be the guiding principle with the new administration coming in? Should they stay, the alert levels?
I don't think the alert level should stay when there is no need for an alert level. If you were to ask me today, we should be in alert level 0. Even if infections are going up, hospital utilization is not going up, and it remains to be muted. There are more cases that are non-COVID that are in the hospitals today. So, in fact, I'm meeting some of the medical doctors who are in the news and coming out with all this data. So that we have to align, no? When do we call it alert level 1, 2, or 3? Are we going to use infection as the basis, or hospital utilization as hospital capacity as the basis? No. So we have to. To my mind, it's not infection.
Apo.
I mean, you can have 1,000 cases a day, but if everybody is just getting well at home, then it's fine.
Yeah, but there are guiding principles to that, from moving from one alert level to another. It's just not the number of infections on a daily basis. It's the ADAR, and it's also the hospital utilization. In other words, ilan nagkasakit, ano ang attack rate, at how are the hospitals doing so far. But basically, do you want the alert levels just scrapped?
The alert levels need not be scrapped. For example, like today, we are closely monitoring all of these positivity rates, which is fine. No? Right. It gives you some sign. No? But the basis for raising alert levels should really be hospitalization. And if it remains to be normal, then there is no really need to raise it to alert level 1. No? Things should move on freely. And I think the rest of the world are starting to accept that. In Europe and in America, basically, they don't have alert levels being raised right now, even with infections at high levels, because hospitalizations remain to be
low,
wide open. There's very low. So and that's the mindset we have to have. No? I mean, why are we going? We know that Omicron is highly infectious, but a mild. No? So a lot of people that I know have recently gotten infected with Omicron just stay at home for five days. We have antiviral pills like molnupiravir, which people take, and it's quite effective. No, in 5 days, I've not heard of anybody being hospitalized today, no, with Omicron as of this point in time. Knock on wood. And I don't think for as long as it is Omicron and not any other variant that will cause a more severe case, then we should be fine.
Okay.
I think that is not a problem anymore.
So are you saying that, so you're not saying to scrap the alert levels. What you're saying is what, sir? To downgrade to 0?
Yes, and just come out with the alert levels when it's needed. No, right now we are at alert level 1, but from my own perspective, we should be at no alert level
Okay.
at this point in time.
Okay, that's clear.
my own thinking.
Okay. What about masks on or masks off? Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know, in due respect to the president, I think we should follow the directive at least until June 30, because that is their call, no. And moving forward under the next administration, we can, and I've discussed it with President-elect BBM, if he would be open to looking at these protocols, especially on masks. No? And I believe that for outdoor, we should encourage it, but not mandate. For indoor, we should definitely require a mask indoor, for now, no. But so I have a different perspective when it comes to outdoor, no.
Can you tell us more about that? Your perspective on outdoor masking or not masking?
Yes, I think we should encourage it outdoor, especially if you're out in the streets and there's you're somehow protected. Now, for those who are in their senior years, they should wear a mask. No? So, but let's encourage it. Let's not mandate it. And how will you catch everybody in the street who's not wearing masks? It's very hard to implement. No? And I just came from Europe, basically Spain, Italy, and France, and outdoor masking is optional. Whether they're very strict in is in public transportation, trains, planes, buses, Uber, taxis, mandatory mask. Trains, even N95 is required. No? So you can see where there's a heavy population being transported, then they require that. But outdoor, none. In restaurants, they're more aggressive. In America and Europe, there are no masks. But for us Filipinos who were there recently, we wear the mask. No?
But what was the stand of the president-elect on, number one, the alert level, when you mentioned it to him?
I think he's open to the ideas. Of course, he has to form the group of advisors that will advise him. But he is open to these ideas. I think moving forward, as he brings in his team, they have not yet appointed a DOH secretary.
No.
So of course they will, the DOH secretary will have a huge say on this. But from my own perspective, as I explained it to him, he didn't object to it right away.
Okay.
He felt that there was some merit to it.
Did you discuss lifting the state of health emergency?
I was telling him that eventually we have to move on because the government cannot continue to be responsible in indemnifying vaccine manufacturers if something goes wrong. Since now these vaccines will be sold for profit, the vaccine manufacturers should handle their own, the indemnification, not the government anymore. So this whole idea should eventually move towards each vaccine manufacturer getting their certificate of product registration from the FDA, which I'm sure they will be able to do, and they will be able to sell the vaccines through the drug stores. No? And that's how we get our flu vaccine and shingles and pneumonia vaccines. And how do we get that? We get it through a prescription from a doctor. So eventually, you move from the state of health emergency, public state, to basically turning it over to partly to the private sector already, no?
Last question, Secretary. Were you offered any cabinet post?
No, we were not talking about that. No, the discussion was primarily focused on the health, the high prices, and the MSMEs. And he knows what we do in the advocacy of Go Negosyo. He knows that I'm an advisor to the president. But we didn't talk about that. I think my role will continue whether there is a position or not. It doesn't really matter.
Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion. Sir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pinky.
And coming up, important Philippine art and rare collectibles are set to be auctioned next weekend. We'll speak to Salcedo Auctions Chairman Richie Lerma after the break. Please stay tuned.